afternoon.
How are you?
You all set?
Yeah, I think we're pretty much ready.
Okay, the meeting will please come to order. This is a duly advertised meeting of the Joliet Zoning Board of Appeals. In our capacity, we hear petitions for relief from the strict provisions of our city ordinance. In matters of this type, the decision of this board is final. Respect, it does not go to the mayor or the city council for any further action. If you disagree with our decision, you do have recourse in a court of record. We also hear petitions for variations of land use. In matters of this type, we act as an advisory committee to the mayor and the city council, making a recommendation either for or against it. The final decision on land use is made by the mayor and the city council. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Ferguson.
Here.
Mr. McCauley. Ms. Powers. Mr. Riggs.
Here.
Mr. Thompson.
Here.
Mr. Hennessy.
Here. I'm going to advise anyone that has a petition here that we only have 4 members, which does create a quorum. We have several members that are not available and one that recently retired. So if you have any problems without a full agenda, without a full board, let us know. And we can postpone it to another meeting. Go ahead, Mr. Secretary. Mike, you ready?
Yeah. The first item on your agenda, Mr. Chair, after the roll call is the approval of the minutes. There's a motion would be in order to approve the September 20th, 2018 Zoning Board of Appeals minutes.
Motion would be in order.
Motion to approve.
Second. Do you have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Poll the board.
Mr. Riggs.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Mr. Ferguson.
Aye.
Mr. Hennessy.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the next item on the agenda is citizens to be heard on
I
agenda.
think we, first of all, do you want to announce 2018 53 that's been removed, in case there's anybody here for that?
2018-53, the repeal of a special use permit. I'll just make the announcement that there is a request for anybody in the audience wishing to speak on that public hearing. There is a request that we received after the packet, or just before the packet went out, I guess, that the attorney will be out of town. Sorry. The attorney, sorry for the interruption, the attorney for the representing the petitioner, the automotive business at 1403 Plainfield Road, has requested that this matter be tabled to the next month's meeting, the November zoning board meeting, as I believe he is out of town. So that would be at the pleasure of the chair and of the zoning board.
Any objections to that?
So we'll come, you can, I don't know if you want to make a motion now. You're going to take that out of order?
Motion to table would be in order, right?
Okay.
Motion to table.
Second.
We have motion and second to table petition 2018 53. Poll the board.
Mr. Ferguson.
Aye.
Mr. Riggs.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Mr. Hennessy.
Aye.
And just for the record, that date would be November 15th. That's Thursday, November 15th. Okay, Mr. Chair, next item on your agenda, if we're going through the order here, just for the record, we have to read item 4, citizens to be heard on agenda items. This is a section of the agenda for anyone wanting to speak regarding items that are listed on the agenda, except for those items that are already listed as a public hearing. Anyone speaking on an agenda item is entitled to speak for a maximum of 4 minutes. It is not a question and answer period, and staff and the Zoning Board of Appeals do not generally respond to those public comments. Please note that speakers who engage in conduct injurious to the harmony of the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting shall be called to order by the presiding officer and may forfeit the opportunity to speak.
Okay.
Is there anyone here wishing to speak on non-public hearing agenda items? No one? Okay, so the next item of the agenda is...
We have also some requests to Mr. Hanson. Did you have a request in, I believe? And we had another request for to move, change the agenda. Is there any objections to altering the agenda?
Okay, so the agenda will be modified. Item 5, new business, public hearings. The first case will be case number, double check here, 2018-48. The applicant is Derek April. Owner of the property is Route 53 and Laraway Road LLC. The location is 2421 South Chicago Street. This is a request for a special use permit to allow a truck wash facility in a B3 general business zoning district. The special use permit request must be considered by the City Council following the recommendation of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Under site-specific information, this is a 2.52 acre site that was annexed in Zone B3 General Business in November of 2000. The proposal in question is located on and over two existing lots, 11 and 12, that were part of the Stone City Commercial Park Unit 2 subdivision, which was approved and recorded in 2011. Two 15-foot wide access and public utility and drainage easements would need to be vacated in order to accommodate the future building placement. Stone City Drive was previously dedicated and runs internally within the subdivision to service the existing lots. This petition was filed on September 6th of this year. Surrounding zoning, land use, and character, to the north is the Route 66 Food and Fuel, which is a B3 general business use. To the east is the Pilot Travel Center, also a B3 general business use. To the south is undeveloped, Zone B3 general business. And to the west is Commercial Farm Stand, which is Zone B3 general business. Applicable regulations are the B3 general business district regulations and the section of the ordinance dealing with the criteria for issuance of a special use permit. Under discussion, the petitioner is requesting the special use permit to construct a new truck wash facility along the South Chicago Street or Route 53 corridor. The petitioner stated previously in a meeting with staff that it will be similar to the Blue Beacon truck wash in Monee, and some pictures of that facility are attached. 2 bays are being proposed that will include 1 automatic wash and 1 hand wash option. A concept plan was provided in the packet. 4 employees will initially be hired to work at the facility. Truck repair will not be permitted within the facility or on site. Water and sewer connections are available within the mains that are located on the west side of Stone City Drive. 86% of the water used will be from recycled on-site water. An 8-minute wash time is expected per wash, and the business hours of operation that are being proposed would be for a 24-hour operation 7 days a week. The city's Public Works Department reviewed the concept plan, and they have determined that adequate vehicle stacking is provided in the design of the truck lanes. A separate drive-through permit would need to be applied for and approved by the City Council prior to the review of a future building permit. The installation and landscape material will need to be installed that meets the city's landscape ordinance. The building material being proposed will need to be brick and or stone in order to comply with the city's non-residential design standards, and there are concept elevations attached. The proposed truck wash facility should not cause any detrimental effects to the surrounding mixed-use area. If under conditions that are suggested, if the zoning board desires to approve this special use permit, the following conditions would be included. 1, that the access easements and public utility and drainage easements shall be vacated prior to the submittal of the building permit. 2, that a landscaping plan shall be submitted and installed as per the requirements of the city's landscape ordinance. 3, that the future buildings shall meet the requirements for architectural appearance as per the requirements of the city's non-residential design standards. And 4, that the owner and or operator of the truck wash shall exercise due care in ensuring that vehicles exiting the truck wash are adequately dry so as to not cause wet or icy pavement conditions on Illinois Route 53. The 4th condition I will not read in its entirety, but it's a standard language from our ordinance and past special use permits, that the special use herein granted shall terminate or lapse unless a building permit or certificate of occupancy is obtained not later than 180 days after the effective date of the ordinance. And the final condition is that should the property be declared a public nuisance, it shall be subject to a rehearing and a possible revocation of the special use permit. That concludes staff's report.
Petitioners present? After that long introduction, I'm glad you're here. I must swear you in. Do you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Name and address, please.
Derek April.
Raise the mic up.
This Derek April. 330 Willow Avenue, Joliet, Illinois.
Any comments you'd like to make, sir?
No comments.
Okay. Any comments or questions by the board? Nope. Anybody in the audience wishing to speak in favor? Want to step aside? You swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law?
I do. Michael Hansen, attorney, Kavanaugh, Grumley, Gorbold, and Joliet, representing the property owner. We obviously are in favor of this petition and know that it'll be a very good business for this particular area. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Chair closes petition to the floor and asks the board for discussion and a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have motion and second to approve the petition. Poll the board.
Mr. Ferguson.
Aye.
Mr. Riggs.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Mr. Hennessy.
Aye. Thank you.
And I'll just mention for the applicant and council that this will be scheduled for the council meeting, and be in touch with the city planning staff to verify the date. The next item on the agenda is,
Do we have another request? Or,
oh, we have another just to amend the agenda.
yeah.
Okay, which case are we doing? Can I borrow yours again? Sorry, taking these all out of order. This is petition 2018-50. The applicant is Briscoe Financial LLC, and the owner of the property is Tobro Limited. The location is 2601 Cities Edge Drive, and the request is for a variation of use to allow outdoor storage, which is an I-1 light industrial use in a B3 general business zoning district, as an accessory use for the existing tenants at 2621 Cities Edge Drive. This variation of use request must be considered by the City Council following the recommendation of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Under site-specific information, the area in question was previously annexed and zoned B3 General Business in 1970. The 1.13 acre site in question is located on Lot 1 of the Cities Edge subdivision, which was approved by the City Council in 2004. Lot 2 at 2621 Cities Edge Drive includes a 16,000 square foot or 80 by 200 foot commercial building with 9 separate tenant spaces that was built in 2006. The petitioner for this request is a contract purchaser for 7 of those units. Cities Edge Drive was previously dedicated and runs internally within the subdivision to service the existing lots. The petition was filed September 7th of this year. Surrounding zoning, land use, and character. To the north is Will County Forest Preserve, Zone B3 General Business. To the east is Commercial, Zone B3 General Business. To the south, Commercial, B3 General Business. And to the west is residential. That's actually in the village of Shanahan. Applicable regulations include the B3 General Business District regulations, the outdoor manufacturing and storage regulations, and a variation of use regulations. Under discussion, the petitioner is in the process of purchasing 7 units within the existing multi-tenant commercial building to the south of the property that we're looking at. And there are attached in your packet some pictures of the property. The petitioner believes that the addition of outdoor storage space, and there is a concept plan for that, would make the building more marketable to the new tenants. If approved, the storage space could only be utilized by tenants of the adjacent building space. This would be made a condition of approval and would need to be protected by a recorded covenant. In addition, conditions and covenants would need to be put in place that restrict the storage to that which is allowed per the I-1 permitted uses. This prohibits storage of hazardous material, inoperable vehicles, scrap or salvage material, and cargo containers, to name a few. The storage of recreational vehicles would also need to be prohibited by condition and covenant. The storage area would need to be paved and curbed as per the requirements of a commercial off-street parking area. An 8-foot high solid wooden fence would enclose the proposed area on all sides. 4 24-foot wide gates would allow access to the storage space by the permitted tenants, and landscape installation in accordance to an appropriate industrial buffer will also be required. This will include a 10-foot wide area along the north and east property lines and a 15-foot wide buffer along the west property line. If the zoning board desires to approve this variation of use, the following conditions would be included. 1, that an 8-foot solid wooden fence shall be installed around the entire perimeter of the outdoor storage area. 2, that outdoor storage permission shall be restricted to those 9 tenant spaces located at 2621 City's Edge Drive, and a restricted covenant on the property must be recorded to this effect before building permit approval. 3, that outdoor storage material shall be restricted to that which is permitted in the I-1 light industrial uses category, and a restricted covenant on the property must be recorded to this effect before building permit approval. 4, that outdoor storage of recreational vehicles, including but not limited to boats, campers, watercraft, motorcycles, all-terrain vehicles, trailers, and personal vehicles that are unrelated to the business shall be prohibited. A restricted covenant on the property must be recorded to this effect before building permit approval. And 5, that the storage area shall be paved and curbed in accordance with the requirements of the city's Public Works Department for commercial parking lots. 6, that a landscape plan shall be prepared and submitted in accordance with the city's landscape ordinance prior to building permit approval. And 7, should the property be declared a public nuisance, it shall be subject to a rehearing and possible revocation of the variation of use. That concludes staff's report.
Thank you. Mr. President?
Good afternoon, Tom
Let's swear you
Osterberger,
in, sir.
111
Swear the
North.
evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law.
I do.
Name and address.
Tom Osterberger, 111 North Ottawa Street. I'm the attorney for the petitioner. Jason Briscoe is a principal of the petitioner, sole owner. He is in the process of attempting to buy this from the bank. This subdivision was platted in 2004, 2005. 6 lots. Since then, only 2 of them have been built on. So he's in the process of buying this building and is seeking, the building consisted of 7 units of about 1,600 square foot each. So it's small contractor, small business type units. And he's looking to add this lot because the marketability of those units, the tenants are all looking for a little bit of space. Obviously, as Mike said, it would be fully enclosed in. There would be no lights, so there wouldn't be any activity at night. It's fenced in and secured and paved, so there shouldn't be dust, shouldn't be noise, certainly less noise than there would be for a building there with a circulation pattern around it. So he's here to answer any questions you have.
What would the hours of operation be?
So normally 9 to 5, 9 to 6, something like that.
Yes, and the one current tenant that occupies.
Sir, I have to swear you in if you're going to talk. Do you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Name and address.
Jason Briscoe, 8747 East Hansel Road, Shanahan, Illinois. The one tenant where you can see the vehicles, they are a service master. They clean up after fires and things of that nature. From talking even to that tenant, as you can see, what the difficulty is that they have trailers and things that they use when they have to go out to the job site, but yet there's not any place to really put them. So that's kind of the idea of what that lot would entail, is small businesses like that that would be able to put their excess items that can't fit inside, where it's not just parked blocking the free pass around the building.
Okay, do you work weekends?
I'm, you know what, the existing tenant, I believe, works Monday through Friday, weekends if there's a natural disaster.
Some occasional work on,
Right. All the tenants that well, right now, most of the building is all, other than that one tenant, is completely vacant, has been. So I can't really speak to
how many tenants are in there now?
One.
Just one?
Yeah, at the far end where you see the trailers there.
Okay. Any other questions by the board? Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Chair closes the petition to the floor and asks the board for a motion.
Motion to approve. I second.
We do have a motion and a second to approve the petition. Pull the board, please.
Mr. Riggs?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Ferguson?
Aye.
Mr. Hennessy?
Aye. Oops. Okay, let's move on.
So that request for the applicant's benefit would go to the city council, and please be in touch with the planning staff to confirm the date. The next case on the agenda is petition number 2018-46. The applicant is Sujit Parikh. Owner is also that individual. Location is 301 South Ottawa Street. This is a request for a variation of use and a series of variations. The applicant is requesting a variation of use, a variation on lot area per family, reduction from 3,500 square feet to 1,200 square feet, and a variation of on-street parking spaces from 8 spaces to 5 spaces in order to allow a 5-unit building, which is an R4 low-density multifamily use in an R3 1 and 2 family residential zoning district located at 301 South Ottawa Street. The variation of use request must be considered by the City Council following the recommendation of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Under site-specific information, the property in question is a corner lot that is 40 foot wide by 150 feet deep, or 6,000 square feet. The property has 2 buildings. The first building sits directly at the corner. It is 2 stories in height and contains a commercial unit, which was previously a barber shop, on the first floor, and 2 housing units on the second floor. There is a separate 2-story building behind this building, which also has 2 housing units. The 2 buildings are connected by a covered walkway. The property is currently zoned R3, 1 and 2 family residential. However, the city granted a variation of use in November of 1996 to allow a 4-unit building and a barber shop in this R3 zoning district, and that was ordinance 11295. The city also granted the following variations in 1996 under ZBA case 96-100. For the property, a variation to allow 2 main buildings on one lot, a variation on lot area per family reduced from 3,500 square feet to 1,500 square feet, a variation to reduce maximum, to increase maximum ground coverage from 30% to 40%, and a variation to reduce off-street parking spaces from 2 spaces to 0 spaces. The front building was granted a variation as required front yard setback from reducing the front yard setback from 25 feet to 22 feet, a variation to reduce the required side yard on a corner lot from 20 feet to 8 feet, and for the rear building, a variation to reduce the required side yard on a corner lot from 20 feet to 4 feet. The subject property was reclassified to R5, which is high-density multifamily zoning, to R3, 1 and 2 families residential zoning, as part of the South Side Neighborhood Plan, which was adopted by the city in 1978. Surrounding zoning, land use, and character to the north, south, east, and west in all directions is R-2 single-family residential and all developed as residential. Applicable regulations include the permitted principal uses in the R3 district, the prohibited uses in the R3 district, and the variation of use regulations. Under discussion, the petitioner purchased the property in the summer of 2018 and would like to convert the vacant commercial unit, which is located on the first floor of the front building, into a residential unit. The front commercial style building has a long history of commercial uses. It housed an ice business for several decades in the mid-20th century, from at least the 1940s through the 1970s, and a barber shop from the 1960s onwards. Market forces led to the eventual demise of the ice shop as well as the barber shop later on. Approval of this request would create a 5th housing unit on the property. Denial of the request may result in the long-term vacancy of a former commercial unit due to weak market demand for a barber shop at this location. The property is in the city's rental inspection program. Neighborhood Services inspected the property in March of 2017 and issued a 2-year certificate of inspection. The property includes 5 off-street parking spaces, and there is 1 parking space between the 2 buildings and 4 parking spaces behind the rear building, with alley access from Wallace Street. This 4-car parking area has overgrown vegetation, which will need to be cut back in order to maintain the 4th parking space in this area. Maintenance of the rear parking area has been suggested as a condition of approval. There is also parking for 2 cars in a paved area of the city parkway along Wallace Street, which was a parking area from when the front building was in commercial use. The zoning ordinance requires 8 spaces for a 5-unit property. Thus, the petitioner is requesting a variation to reduce the required off-street parking spaces from 8 spaces to 5 spaces. If conditions are attached, if the zoning board desires to approve the variation of use, the following conditions would be included. 1, that off-street parking shall remain in the future. 2, that overgrown vegetation in the rear parking area shall be removed in order to maintain 4 spaces in this area. 3, that the use of the property shall not be expanded in the future. And 4, should the property be declared a public nuisance by the city council, the variation of use is automatically revoked. That concludes staff's report.
Thank you. Petitioners present?
I'm
Raise your hand. Do you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Your name and address, please.
Sujit Parikh, 4111 Joliet Drive, Naperville, Illinois, 60564, sir.
Okay, any comments you'd like to make, sir?
No comments.
That area in the back where there's room for additional parking and it needs some maintenance, would you be willing to clean that up? Is that area paved back there, by the way, Mike?
No. I don't believe so.
No, it's not big.
I don't believe it is.
So if that were cleaned up and everything else, it would have to be paved, right?
I believe so.
We would-
Maybe the petitioner, do you know if that area is paved? I don't
Yeah,
believe.
that area is paved. I think only the
it's
vegetation
not.
need to be removed. I saw there is a vegetation. I can clear that up. I can remove that vegetation.
It does say on the plat of survey asphalt parking, but I personally did not visit the site. I know the planner
We could
did.
make that a condition of approval if we wanted to.
There's a picture. Okay, there's a picture on your screen showing it is actually asphalt.
That's area there?
That's correct.
Where's all the vegetation you're talking about?
On the right-hand side, you can see there is a big tree,
Be-
but
be-
at the bottom, there is a vegetation.
Okay, under the stairs and beyond the car.
Yep.
There's space on the other side of the car for more parking?
Probably, what, 1 space? Maybe one additional?
Yeah, 1 space, yep. So there is 4 cars can park over there.
Okay, if this should be approved, would you be willing to clean that up and pave that area?
Sure, sir, I will.
Okay, any other questions by the board?
That spot has been a sore eye for the community. I've been living there for years.
Sure.
Okay, so I would love to see somebody like yourself come fix it up. You know, because I remember the guy who used to own it
Yeah.
years ago, Mike's Barbershop, but now it turned into something else.
Yeah.
So please do what you can for it. I appreciate it.
Sure, sir, I will definitely
Thank
do.
you.
Thanks for your.
How long have you
comment.
owned the property?
I just bought in July 2018, so like 3 months back.
Is that why it came before us, because of the change of ownership?
Adding the additional unit is why it's in front of
For
you.
the empty space?
Yes.
Commercial spot, okay. Any other questions by the board?
Mike, with that being 5 units, wouldn't they need to have a dumpster and an enclosed
Yes.
for the city?
We'll have to check on that.
I'm pretty sure, because I've had
If
that
it is
many units
required, I don't
before.
think a condition would be needed. We would work with the applicant. You can certainly add it as a
Sure,
condition if it's
We would
required.
like to add that as a condition, that it would be a dumpster and an enclosed
Dumpster,
area.
Yes, sir, definitely. I agree with that.
Any other comments by the board? Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor? Is anyone opposed? A motion would be in order with whatever recommendations you want to make, gentlemen.
Motion to approve that the addition of the dumpster and it being in an enclosed area.
And can we just confirm the language on that to say the dumpster, if it's needed? I don't know
If needed.
definitively.
That's fine.
You want to include the paving for the additional space there too?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
If
Is there a
it's
second to the motion?
A second.
We have motion and a second to approve petition 2018-46. Poll the board, please.
Mr. Ferguson.
Aye.
Mr. Riggs.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Mr. Hennessy.
Aye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, dear board members.
And the additional units, it's going to have to go to council, right? So just please be in touch with planning staff to confirm the city council meeting date. The next case on your agenda is petition 2018-47. The applicant is Darnell Taylor and also the owner. This is at 1202 Dearborn Street, a request for a variation of use to allow the continuation of a 2-unit R3 use in an R2 single-family zoning district at 1202 Dearborn Street. The variation of use request must be considered by the city council following the recommendation of the zoning board of appeals. The property in question is 45 by 130 feet or 5868 square feet in size with a circa 1926 one-story bungalow home in the front and a 2-story building, which is a garage on the first floor and an apartment second floor in the rear. According to a previous staff report, the previous owner of the property added an apartment above the garage in the late 1980s prior to obtaining zoning approval and prior to obtaining building permits for the apartment. The property was zoned for a 2-unit in the 1980s. However, the city downzoned the property to its current R2 single-family residential zoning in 1997. Surrounding zoning, land use, and character, in all directions, the zoning is R2 single-family residential and developed with single-family homes. Applicable regulations include the permitted principal uses in the R2 zoning, prohibited uses, and the variation of use regulations. Under discussion, the petitioner is requesting that a variation of use be granted in order to continue a 2-unit building at this location. The second unit was erected above the detached garage in the late 1980s, and a plat of survey showing the relationship between the 2 units, as well as floor plans for the 2 units, are attached. The property meets the city's off-street parking requirements for a 2-unit. The two spaces are available adjacent to the garage, and 2 spaces are available in the driveway of the main house. There is also space in the garage. The parking area for the garage unit is unpaved, and paving of this area has been suggested as a condition of approval for this request. The property has a case history regarding its use as a 2-unit. In October of 1986, the ZBA approved a variation to allow 2 principal structures on 1 lot and a variation to reduce the minimum lot area per family from 3,500 square feet to 2,925 square feet, in order to allow the conversion of the upper level of the garage into an apartment. Existing zoning at that time was R3 1 and 2 family, as was the surrounding zoning. However, the property was downzoned in 1996 to its current R2 single-family residential zoning, along with other properties in the neighborhood, in an effort to stabilize the area by reducing housing density. In February of 1997, the City Council denied a request for a variation of use to allow the continuation of 2 housing units at this location. However, the use was allowed to continue until 2016, when the 20-year amortization period would expire. Minutes from the 1997 City Council denial are attached. Therefore, the property presently requires a variation of use to continue as a 2-unit at this location. The property was enrolled in the city's rental inspection program from 1997 to 2008. The property was last inspected in 2008, which, according to the owner, was around the time that the property became an owner-occupied 2-unit. The Division of Neighborhood Services has scheduled an inspection of the property, which will occur prior to the October 18th zoning board meeting. An addendum will be provided to the ZBA regarding any new information from the inspection. Should this petition be approved by the City Council, and if both units are rented, the property would get enrolled in the city's rental inspection program. If the zoning board desires to approve the variation of use, the following conditions would be included. 1, proper fire separation between the garage and apartment unit shall be installed and or maintained. 2, that the parking area adjacent to the garage unit shall be paved. 3, that off-street parking shall remain in the future. 4, that use of the property shall not be expanded in the future. And 5, should the property be declared a public nuisance by the City Council, the variation of use is automatically revoked. That concludes staff's report.
Petitioner present? I swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law.
I do.
Have your name and address.
Darnell Taylor, 3616 Squires Mill, Joliet, Illinois.
Any comments you'd like to make, sir?
Maybe just a couple here. I purchased this home in 2005. I lived in the home owner occupied for, the last 13 years. I just recently moved out last year. I've been associated with this property since probably for the last 30 years. I actually rented the house in front probably about 30 years ago. Purchased the home from a friend who previously owned it. It's always been a 2-unit, and I just don't, just doing what I got to do to get everything squared away so we can continue. I'm just trying to recoup some of these losses that we got, purchasing at the height of the bubble.
Is that your friend that added the garage back in 1980?
Actually, no. I actually, when I was living in the front house, the garage was there with the 2-unit then, so I'm not sure of the accuracy there of the report on that. I do believe somebody here could speak on when that was added.
But you yourself are totally innocent of any violations, right?
Well, I didn't add it. I know that.
No, I'm just teasing you. Okay. Any questions by the board? Nope. Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Come on forward. Brought your back up, huh? Okay. Do you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, I do.
Name and address. Speak
Bonnie
up,
Andretti, 1204 Dearborn. I've lived in the neighborhood way before there now. That's always been there. I've never had a problem with any of the neighbors, renters, or anything. In fact, one time we did rent to a nun, and I think they're still praying for me. Never a problem with the neighbors or anybody. No complaints at all.
Well, that's very nice. Thank you. Anyone else? Come on up and get on television. Do you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under a penalty of law? Name and address.
Don Barnhart, 825 Clement Street, Joliet, Illinois.
Okay.
I know Donnell for a couple of years now. The people that had the house before him, I knew the original family that had that house. And that garage back there, that was built back in, Christ, I don't even know how long it's been, but that used to be a pigeon coop. Riley House is one of the.
That was before we had the cell phones, I imagine.
I don't know what the problem is. It's been there forever. So.
Pigeons were popular at that time. Okay, we'll take your word for that. Anyone else?
If I could add just one other thing.
Go ahead.
I've been contacted by the Cunningham Neighborhood Community Services people, and we had a fairly long discussion about it. Although I couldn't get them here to, to advocate the situation, they definitely said that we're not going to deny.
Unfortunately, I'll take your word for that too, but we cannot take the word for someone unless they're here present and sworn in.
I understand.
But we'll take that into consideration. If anybody else wants to jump on the bandwagon? Okay, anyone opposed? Is your back there? I don't know. You don't want him opposed. He's a big guy. Okay. Going to close the petition to the floor and ask the board for discussion and a motion.
Motion to approve.
Subject to the conditions?
I second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the petition subject to the conditions as stated. Pull the board, please.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Ferguson?
Aye.
Mr. Riggs?
Aye.
Mr. Hennessy?
Aye. Thank you, sir.
And this will move on to the city council, be in touch with staff to confirm the meeting date. Next item on your agenda is petition number 2018-49. This is a public hearing regarding 2901 Gulf Road. The request is a variation to reduce the required corner side yard setback. The petitioner is requesting, the applicant is Brian Beebedge, if I've said that correctly, and also the owner of the property. This is a request to reduce the required corner side yard setback from 20 feet to 10 feet in order to allow the installation of an above-ground pool. The zoning board makes the final decision for this variation request. The lot is 76.11 feet by 120, or 9,133 square feet, located at the northeast corner of Gulf Road and Prescott Drive. and contains a two-story single-family residence. The existing zoning is R-2 single-family residential. The petition was filed on September 7th of 2018. Surrounding zoning in all directions is R-2 single-family residential, and to the south also is a small portion of unincorporated Will County. The area is entirely surrounded by single-family homes. Applicable regulations include the yard and lot requirements of the R2 district and the yards required for corner and through lots. Also, under discussion, and also the variation regulations. Under discussion, the petitioner is requesting a variation to reduce the required corner side yard setback from 20 feet to 10 feet in order to install the above-ground pool at his property. The petitioner would like to install an 18-foot diameter above-ground pool on the west side of the backyard. Because the lot is a corner lot, the pool cannot be installed within 20 feet of the property line per the zoning ordinance. The petitioner desires not to place his pool in the central part of his backyard due to the location of two large trees and the existing patio. The property has an existing 6-foot privacy fence at the property line along Prescott Drive, which will screen the view of the pool from the street. A plat of survey and site photos are attached, and that concludes staff's report.
Thank you. Petitioner present? Do you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Name and address.
Ryan Beebe, 2901 Gulf Road, Joliet, Illinois. The reason why I'm requesting it is because of where the patio is in relation to the trees. If I was to move the pool over the 20 feet requirement there, so at the edge of the patio, you can see there to the trees. The dimensions of the pool would only leave me 2 feet roughly on either side of the tree and of the patio itself there, basically cutting the backyard in half into two. So by moving the pool over 10 more feet closer to the side yard there of the property line, that would give me more access to the backyard and to have a little bit more enjoyable space for my son and my family and the dogs. So that's why I'm requesting to see if I can have that moved over. I wasn't aware of this when I purchased the pool, that there was a requirement on a corner lot to be 20 feet over. So I had already purchased the pool, and now I've been waiting now for this to see if this can get approved or not. And my neighbors to the east of me, they have a pool which is closer to the fence yard, and I thought that was under the assumption that I could do something like that too until I came for the permit and found that it was otherwise. So that's why I'm requesting, so I don't have my yard divided in two. So that's what I'm looking for, to see if I can move the pool over at least 10 feet more over, closer to the property line to give me more access to the backyard.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Any questions by the board? Does anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anyone opposed? Well, I understand because of the shape of the thing, you have proven a practical difficulty, and that's one of the requirements for approving a variation. I will close the petition to the floor and ask the board for a motion.
Motion to approve.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the petition. Poll the board.
Mr. Riggs?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Ferguson?
Aye.
Mr. Hennessy?
Aye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
The final item under public hearings under the agenda is petition number 2018-51 and 2018-52. The applicant is Brendan Bloom of GTI, and the owner of the property is Hanover Investments LLC. The location is 2903 Colorado Avenue. This is a request for a variation of use and a special use permit. The petitioner is requesting a variation of use to allow an RB restricted business use in a B2 central business zoning district and a special use permit in order to allow the relocation of an existing medical cannabis dispensary. Both of these requests must be considered by the City Council following the recommendation of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Under site-specific information, the 0.75 acre site contains a single-tenant, one-story building within an existing outlot of the Louis Joliet Mall. The 6,600 square foot building was constructed in 1999 for a Mattress Giant store. An accessory parking lot is available adjacent that includes 27 parking spaces. The building was most recently utilized by Mattress Firm, but has since become vacant. It is equipped with a loading dock to accommodate deliveries. There are multiple points of access to the site from Colorado Avenue and Voyager Lane. Sign variations were approved to allow an additional wall sign and a monument sign in January 2000 and a third wall sign in September of 2000. The property is Zone B2 Central Business. The case was filed September 7th of this year. Surrounding zoning, land use, and character, the property is surrounded on all sides by commercial uses, and the area is Zone B2 Central Business District. Applicable regulations include the B2 Central Business District regulations, the R-B special uses, the variation of use provisions of the ordinance, and the criteria for issuance of a special use permit. Under discussion, in 2014, the state of Illinois enacted the Compassionate Use of Medical Cannabis Pilot Program Act, otherwise known as the Medical Cannabis Act, which, as a matter of state law, legalized the cultivation, transportation, sale, possession, and use of medical cannabis pursuant to the terms and conditions set forth therein. As per Section 140 of the Act, the City of Joliet enacted zoning regulations covering medical cannabis cultivation centers and medical cannabis dispensing organizations on January 7th of 2014. Pursuant to those regulations attached hereto, a dispensary is required to meet certain conditions and receive approval of a special use permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Mayor and City Council. The subject site meets all required spacing and location requirements and must meet all other terms of the ordinance. 3C Compassionate Care Center received a dispensary license from the state of Illinois in 2015 and has been operating at 1627 Rock Creek Boulevard in the Rock Run Business Park since that time. The owners would like to relocate their facility to the subject site in order to be in a more accessible commercial area rather than in an industrial park. If approved, the operators would need to follow all registration and relocation guidelines with the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation or any successor agency, and be in good standing and operate in strict compliance with the Compassionate Use of Medical Cannabis Pilot Program Act and the City Ordinance Number 17186. Staff believes that the site, as a proposed medical cannabis dispensary, should not cause any detrimental effects to the surrounding commercial area if operated in strict compliance with the Compassionate Use of Medical Cannabis Pilot Program Act and with City Ordinance Number 17186. If the zoning board elects to recommend approval of these requests, the conditions would be attached as follows. 1, that off-street parking shall remain in the future. 2, that the special use permit granted herein shall terminate and lapse unless a building permit or certificate of occupancy is obtained not later than 365 days after the effective date of the ordinance. I won't read the rest, but it's standard language for that type of condition. And then condition number 3 would read, should the property be declared a public nuisance, it shall be subject to a rehearing and a possible revocation of the special use permit. That concludes staff's report.
Thank you. Well, you know you don't have everybody protesting. See, if you wait till the last, everybody goes home. Do you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Your name and address.
Lyndon Bloom, 3054 West Eastwood, Chicago, Illinois.
Well, I'd just like to comment that I remember when I was on the city council, this is back in the late 60s, early 70s, something came up on an issue about marijuana or something. Maybe it's the amount of people that were being arrested for small possession or some damn thing. And we had a Joliet city councilman who was a good councilman and a rather conservative young man, and his name was Louis Pila. And he made a motion back then in the late 60s or so that he thought it should be approved, and he said he doubted it would ever happen in his lifetime, which it didn't. But he was right about the damn thing. Here we are now, pretty well accepted all the perceived problems and dangers and alleviation, and they found the good uses of it. And I think it's being put to good purpose. So in memory to Louis Pila, who was known as Screwy Louis, welcome aboard. You wouldn't have the opportunity otherwise. If you have a presentation after that, go ahead.
Not anything to present. I just want to make a couple comments. We've been operating almost 3 years now in Joliet. No issues from the police department, fire department. Safety has never been a concern. So just want to keep operating and make better access for our patients in a more accessible area.
And this meets all state requirements and everything as far as distancing and,
Yeah, so the city adopted the state regulations for spacing, and I confirmed prior to the meeting with the staff that in fact the 1,000-foot requirement has been met here.
yeah, I remember when we first approved this, that there was something about distancing from certain institutional uses and everything. I couldn't recall what they were, so
1,000
thank you
feet
for
from-
checking that out. Any other questions by the board?
Will the signs be the same sign spacing? Because we had additional signs when the mattress place was there.
We would keep the signs in the same place. Is there any additional requirement if that is the case?
That's what I'm checking with them. Would they lose any of that space because that was a requirement for the mattress company?
No, I mean, the signs that are there they would be able to reuse those placements, those locations.
Anything else? There's no one else here to object or approve, so with that, I will close petition to the floor and ask the board for a motion.
Motion to approve.
A second?
We have a motion and a second to approve. Call the roll.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Ferguson?
Aye.
Mr. Riggs?
Aye.
Mr. Hennessy?
In memory of Louis Pila, I vote aye. Let's go ahead.
Mr. Chair, following the public hearings, the last item we have here, or I should say that we have no new business that would be a non-public hearing, and we have no old business that would be a public hearing, and we have no old business that would be a no public hearing. The next item then would be under public comments, and that section is for anyone wanting to speak regarding non-agenda items.
Can I go out and leave here and talk and address the board and say how unnecessary I think all this is? No, okay.
So no, not public comments. And so the last item is, a motion would be in order for adjournment.
A motion being in order to adjourn. We have a motion to second. Poll the board.
Mr. Ferguson?
Aye.
Mr. Riggs?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Hennessy?
Aye. Thank you all.
I have to make a comment about my young buddy